everyone, it's been a while. I hope you all are doing well. Today's video, though delayed, is a response to Candace Owens and Lauren Chen, both of whom have played defense for Kanye West's infamous anti-Semitic remarks and tweets, all while cowardly hiding behind feigned ignorance. Through their deceptive attempts at playing innocent, Owens and Chen play into West's racist views of Jewish people while taking none of the responsibility for said comments. While most of my audience is likely familiar with Candace Owens, there are some who may not be familiar with Lauren Chen. She's a Canadian far-right commentator, YouTube host, former Blaze TV podcaster, and a self-described Christian nationalist. She has also been on various different conservative outlets such as Tim Pool, and has previously interviewed and ran a defense for the infamous neo-Nazi Richard Spencer. To say she has a history of extremist politics is a massive understatement. While Owens has not been so brazen as to interview Richard Spencer, she has previously made videos about slavery that I responded to last year, pointing out the many problems with her presentation of that incredibly sensitive issue. She has also made some horrific comments about black voters within the Democratic Party, insisting that they are on a so-called plantation. So it is perhaps unsurprising that these two far-right figures have contributed to the defense of Kanye West and his anti-Semitism. Far from merely defending West, Owens and Chen use evasive and downright deceptive rhetoric to not only provide cover for West, but also protect themselves from criticism and responsibility for their commentary. On October 8th, Kanye West posted a now infamous tweet in which he claimed that he was going to, quote, go DEFCON 3 on Jewish people, and that he couldn't be anti-Semitic because black people are the real Jewish people. The comment itself reeks of anti-Semitic prejudice and black Hebrew Israelite propaganda, which falsely asserts that African Americans are the true inheritors of Jewish heritage. Such comments would merit condemnation from any decent person observing the comments being made. That was not the case with Candace Owens, who released a video several days later where she defended him, arguing that no reasonable person could view Kanye West as anti-Semitic for this post. She starts this by attempting to argue that talking about Jewish people and money should not be forbidden, and that nobody can actively criticize certain business interests because of the way people think about Jewish people and money.
Okay, so who is the cheapest person that you know? I know that wasn't the question of the day, but I'm asking you that in earnest because I can give you the answer. The cheapest person in my life and the cheapest person that I have ever met is my husband. Let me tell you, this is a man that counts pennies like you wouldn't believe. In fact, he takes pride in it. He says often, if you keep an eye on the pennies, then the pounds will add themselves. Obviously, he's English, so it's like saying if you keep, your eyes on the pennies, you count the pennies, then you will accrue a bunch of dollars in the future. And I have to say he's kind of right. Another extremely close second cheap person would be my assistant, Savannah. I mean, she is the kind of person who has waited in line for a refund on lettuce at Chipotle. You don't know what that means? I don't know what that means. But if something is not right, she will get a refund. Even if that refund is 10 cents, she's going to go and she's going to pursue it. I've never met people that are that cheap. But if you had asked me this question before Savannah was in my life and before I met and married my husband, I would have told you that the cheapest person in my life was my girlfriend, Denise. She was in my wedding. I was in her wedding. We're very close. We've been friends our entire lives. And Denise happens to be Jewish. Oh, wow. Did I just say that a Jewish person in my life was cheap? Well, clearly that is anti-Semitic because it wasn't problematic, of course, a few paces ago when I said my husband, who is a devout Catholic, is cheap. It wasn't problematic when I said Savannah, who is a Protestant, is cheap. But God forbid you say that a Jewish person is cheap. Even if it's factually true, the entire world implodes. You know what I'm talking about. You know where I'm going with this.
Moving forward from her initial framing, Owen connects her view of an individual Jewish person in her life being cheap with Kanye West's tweet by arguing that she herself was misrepresented for her comments about Adolf Hitler, and that such misrepresentation presents itself in how the media reacted to this tweet.
When I received a text message, the first one, that asked me, is Kanye West anti-Semitic? And then came in another text message, somebody screenshot and sent me what Kanye West said and goes, is this real? Is this real? My first instinct was to go, what did he actually say, right? It wasn't to go, oh my gosh, Kanye West hates Jewish people. I know that's not true, obviously, because I'm friends with him and I am friends with his Jewish friends. My instinct was to go, what did he say that is being misconstrued? Now, why would my instinct be to believe that he was being taken out of context or misconstrued? Well, maybe because I'm Candace Owens, and that actually happened to me. It was actually one of the most horrific times throughout my career. Here's the story, and I'm going to remind you because you know that it culminated in me appearing in front of Congress and actually having a congressman, Ted Lieu, smear me as anti-Semitic. So I went on a flight. I was traveling with my buddy, Charlie Kirk, and we went to London, and I was giving a long talk, and we were talking about global affairs, talking about socialism, talking about eventual communism, and talking about just the state of things all across the world throughout the Trump era. And somebody in the audience rose their hand and they asked a question about the word nationalism, something that I think we need to embrace. We need to take care of our nation first. That is really what America first means, right? We need to make sure Americans are being taken care of before we decide that we need to fix what's going on in Ukraine. Pretty simple concept. And a woman or a man raised his hand and asked me a question, Candace, we talk about nationalism, but how can we say nationalism when people have such a dark view of that word? It's become a dirty word. Even though we know what it means, we can't just go out and say we're nationalist. And I responded to her by saying in earnest that the reason, for whatever reason, nationalism has become a bad word is because people wrongly attribute it to Hitler. And Hitler clearly wasn't a nationalist, right? I mean, obviously, you're not a nationalist if you're invading the country next to you. You're not a nationalist. You don't care about the people in your nation if you're killing the Jews in your nation, right? That doesn't make any sense. Okay, said that, had a nice talk. The press was there. Nobody covered it. Months later, BuzzFeed unearths this clip, strips out the question that was asked of me, and just has me saying, oh, well, if Hitler was a nationalist and just wanted to stay in Germany, that would have been fine, right? So now it sounds suddenly like I'm defending Hitler.
Needless to say, whether or not her comments on Hitler were taken out of context is irrelevant to the current situation. It is not exculpatory for West, and it does absolutely nothing to change the nature and context in which West spoke about Jewish people as a group. Mind you, West has previously accused fellow rapper Diddy of being controlled by Jewish people, comments which he proudly posted on his Instagram. That context is critical to understanding his comments as well as his previous forms of prejudice. This was not the first time Owens misrepresented the nature of Kanye's comments. For example, during her coverage of Kanye's interview with Tucker Carlson, she deceptively framed Kanye's commentary on the Kushners as being merely an example of him being harmed by his friends, and not as part of a larger pattern of anti-Semitism.
Moving on from that, they speak about Kanye's interview with Tucker Carlson, in which he talks about his friend, Jared Kushner. The conversation, he says that he was upset to find out while having dinner with Josh Kushner and Jared Kushner that they owned a percentage of Skims. Skims is Kim Kardashian's lingerie line, undergarment line that Kanye launched with and for her, right? And he did not know, he found out after the fact, that his friends, Josh and Jared Kushner, owned a bigger percentage than he owned. And he was hurt by that.
What she did not mention in her review of West's comments on Tucker Carlson is that West explicitly connected wealth to Jewishness, something that Carlson actively omitted from his work. Granted, this was released a few days after her video, but Owens never updated her audience about that information once it was revealed to the public, demonstrating that she was never truly interested in informing her audience.
I was biting my tongue on my political opinion because I thought it would be better for my children. And now you look up, and my kids are going to a school that teaches black kids a complicated Kwanzaa. I prefer my kids knew Hanukkah than Kwanzaa. At least it will come with some financial engineering. Kwanzaa doesn't, so they don't teach even Christmas itself, Christ Mass.
Even worse, Owens follows this absurd framing by attempting to gaslight people by suggesting that, for some strange reason, the presence of genocidal intent is somehow required for something to be anti-Semitic. Never mind the fact that Kanye specifically targeted Jewish people in general, and not individuals who allegedly wronged him.
In their friendship, he is questioning motives. He is allowed to do that. But of course, it was the tweet that he sent that really got people motivated. So let's read that tweet. Kanye West wrote and then subsequently had his Twitter locked when he said, "I'm a bit sleepy tonight, but when I wake up, I'm going DEFCON 3 on Jewish people. The funny thing is I actually can't be anti-Semitic because black people are actually Jew also. You guys have toyed with me and tried to blackball anyone who opposes your agenda." That was the tweet. and people subsequently demanded that the tweet be taken down for anti-Semitism. Now, if you are an honest person, you did not think this tweet was anti-Semitic. You did not think that he wrote this tweet because he hates or wants to genocide Jewish people. This does not represent the beginning of the Holocaust. That's if you're an honest person, you will admit that.
The fact that Owens went through multiple levels of obfuscation and deception to hide the full extent of West's bigotry should tell you everything you need to know about her commitment to honesty and preserving the dignity of Jewish people, as well as the dignity of her audience. Owens' dedication to protecting Kanye and her unwillingness to acknowledge the full context of his racist commentary is just another example of how morally bankrupt she is. But when it comes to comparing her commentary to others, Owens does take some semblance of a stance on the issue. The same can't be said for Lauren Chen. Not long after Owens released her ridiculous comments, Lauren Chen released her own video titled, "Should the Right Cancel Kanye?" For some reason, she also needed to have the thumbnail say, "The Kanye Question," which totally isn't an anti-Semitic dog whistle or anything. Starting off her view, Chen, unlike Owens, evades the issue of whether or not the comments are prejudiced by effectively chalking it up to a difference of opinion, allowing her to protect herself from being labeled an anti-Semite herself.
And now that interview was apparently so long that they chose to break it up into 2 different parts, airing on 2 different days. And it was right on the heels of the second part of that highly publicized Fox News interview airing that Kanye decided to break the internet a little bit. He posted, "I'm a bit sleepy tonight, but when I wake up, I'm going DEFCON 3 on Jewish people," all caps. "The funny thing is, I actually can't be anti-Semitic because black people are actually Jew also. You guys have toyed with me and try to blackball anyone who ever opposes your agenda." So muy caliente, to say the least, and that tweet was very quickly deleted by Twitter. And now, as you can imagine, that tweet, despite getting deleted, did get a lot of very negative attention, with many people rushing to say this proves that Kanye West is not only anti-Semitic, but is actually threatening the lives of Jewish people with that phrase, DEFCON 3. Now, my opinion, regardless of what else you think about that tweet, I don't actually think Kanye West was threatening anyone. I think he genuinely thought that DEFCON was actually DEathCon. And why he chose 3 instead of 1 to 5, no clue. Say what you want about whether this tweet is prejudice or not, but I think it is a very far cry to say that this should count as a threat.
Such an approach creates a false sense of equivalence between the two sides, which allows Chen and others like her to establish themselves with a feigned sense of supposed centrism. It's worth reiterating that Chen is the same woman who gave Richard Spencer a platform and did not push back on a single thing he said or did in her podcast. Chen also went out of her way to bring Candace Owens back into the limelight, defending her lies about the nature of West's comments and pretending that Owens' commentary merely represented a desire to know more.
Now, as I said with that Kanye West tweet, a lot of people were quick to condemn it as a threat of violence, which I think is totally ridiculous. And those people aside, there were still many more people who, even though they didn't think that Kanye West was threatening violence, still thought that the tweet was anti-Semitic. However, at least one person who seemed to hold off on condemning Kanye was Candace Owens, who, when addressing the whole situation in her podcast, said this.
If you're an honest person, when you read this tweet, you had no idea what the hell he was talking about. I had no idea when I read this tweet what the hell he was talking about. This tweet inspired questions, not answers. First and foremost, what is DEFCON 3?
Now, that clip was shared very heavily on social media, with a lot of people saying that this was Candace Owens defending Kanye and his anti-Semitic tweets. But I think if you go back and watch that clip and pay very close attention, you will notice that Candace Owens is not really defending Kanye or what he said at all here. Essentially, what she says there is that she didn't understand Kanye's tweet. She doesn't know what he means, and that we should be asking him what exactly he means before rushing to condemn him, and certainly before trying to accuse him of committing another Holocaust.
As I pointed out earlier, the nature of Owens' commentary is inherently deceptive because it implies a level of ambivalence into the nature of Kanye's tweets and comments, as if there wasn't previous commentary by West that would show he had a prejudice history against Jewish people. In 2013, Kanye West was on The Breakfast Club, where he said, "Let me tell you something about George W. Bush and oil money, and Obama and no money. People want to say Obama can't make these moves or he's not executing. That's because he ain't got these connections. Black people don't have the same level of connections as Jewish people," unquote. This is how Kanye has consistently thought about Jewish people. It is only now that he is no longer holding back that ugly side that has become so clear today. Chen could have done a modicum of research into West's comments or even bothered to consider what Owens' commentary actually implied. Instead, she created an absurd proposition of supposed controversy when the reality was clear as day. Kanye was being anti-Semitic and has been anti-Semitic for a long time. What more does a person need to know about a person if they are actively tweeting that they are going to attack a specific ethnic group? What restraint should a person have when the group in question has an extensive history of subjugation and genocide? The burden is not on the rest of society to wait for West to clarify his absurdity. It is incumbent on him not to tweet anti-Semitic garbage. Chen continues her bad faith approach to this news by bringing in every far-right commentator's favorite talking point, censorship. Chen argues that the removal of the anti-Semitic tweet constituted censorship and by extension made it impossible for people to get to the truth of the matter about whether or not West is a bigot.
And you know what? I have to say that I agree with Candace Owens here. As soon as I saw that that tweet was deleted, I immediately lamented that now we will never know exactly what Kanye West was going to say. And I think that is exactly why censorship when it comes to this kind of stuff is such a bad idea. If nothing else, actually hearing and waiting to see what Kanye said would have either just solidified the fact that, yeah, the man is bigoted, or maybe absolved him, but now we will never know.
This moment is just an example of bold-faced lying and blatant gaslighting. Chen read the exact tweet in that same video mere moments before she said this. She knew exactly what he said and why it was such a problem. This intentional obfuscation is nothing more than an attempt to portray West as a victim. Through Chen's framing, removing or condemning West's comments is portrayed as being part of some left-wing ploy rather than what it actually is, basic responsibility. People like Chen and Owens who pretend that the hostile reaction to West is anything but reasonable are contributing to the legitimization of unmitigated hatred of Jewish people. Finishing up, Chen finally argues that to attack Owens for her refusal to condemn West's comments is nothing more than guilt by association, asserting that the right, and by extension those who are considered close to it, should avoid such an approach.
Now, this is the part that frustrates me, because here, on the one hand, we have what Kanye West said, his tweet, and some people calling him anti-Semitic. Okay, that's one issue. But once Candace Owens made that statement on her show, basically saying, hey, let's not be too quick to attack someone. Let's try to figure out what he means first, because frankly, we just don't know. That tweet wasn't very clear. Just for saying that, which keep in mind is not really a defense of what Kanye said. It's I don't know what Kanye said. Candace Owens has also since been smeared as an anti-Semite. One of the people who shared that clip of Candace online is someone named Jason Campbell. His entire job is just essentially to sit around all day clipping different parts of Daily Wire shows and spreading them online to try to make them look bigoted. In my opinion, though, he usually just makes them look base, especially Matt Walsh. What can you expect? He works for Media Matters for America, which is a trash organization. But when sharing that clip of Candace, he wrote, Candace Owens on Kanye West's anti-Semitic tweet, if you are an honest person, you did not think this tweet was anti-Semitic, adding, it's like you cannot even say the word Jewish without people getting upset. And that thread became a hot spot, not just for calling Kanye West anti-Semitic or Candace Owens wrong for not seeing how it was anti-Semitic, but also calling Candace Owens anti-Semitic. Anna Kasparian wrote absolute trash. Jim Salter wrote, even after my whole ass life of the GOP and 7 freaking years of the Trumplican GOP, they still regularly manage to take my breath away with their BS. And someone else named Harris Piskin for Democracy just kind of weighed in with Candace Owens is an effing idiot. It's very great and meaningful discourse happening over there. But Candace Owens, I think to her credit, never being one to bow down to cancel culture, she kind of doubled down on the fact that she was not willing to condemn Kanye West for a tweet she did not understand. And so at the premiere of her new documentary, The Greatest Lie Ever Sold, Candace Owens was actually in attendance with Kanye West. Which brings us to the rift that is being caused in the conservative movement. It seems that people are upset not so much over whether Kanye's tweet was anti-Semitic or not, but whether it's still okay to associate with him or not. So with all of that negative attention on Candace for being with Kanye and with what he said about Jewish people, it could come as no surprise really that eventually Ben Shapiro weighed in on this whole thing.
Let me just say this. Candace and I disagree about a wide variety of topics. One of the features, not the bugs, of Daily Wire Plus is the fact that we openly disagree about all of this stuff. I share my opinions about what I think Candace is saying. She shares her opinions about what she thinks that I'm saying. We battle it out. It's one of the things that you get at Daily Wire. When it comes to Candace's defense of those remarks, I think Candace is dead wrong on what she said. While respecting her relationship with Kanye, she knows Kanye better than I do. She knows his motivation. Okay, whatever. All of that I'm sure is true, and I will take that for granted. What she said about Kanye, I radically disagree with. I think that she is dead wrong. I think that it is not it betrays a lack of understanding about anti-Semitism and the scope of anti-Semitism. but we're allowed to have those disagreements. That's the way this works.
And similarly, Derry Boring, who's I think co-CEO of the Daily Wire, he also wrote, "Do you agree with Candace's defense of Kanye's comments? Answer, I disagree with a lot of it. Question, so why did Daily Wire allow her to say it and invite him to her premiere? Answer, allow, we aren't in the business of telling our hosts what to think, say, or do." Now that kind of attitude that you can disagree with one of your hosts, but still have them as part of your platform and still talk about it and still be friendly with them, that is exactly what we should want in the right-wing movement.
The fact of the matter is that whether or not Chen or Owens like it, they are responsible for how they conduct themselves online and in their careers. It is not a mob mentality to suggest that two commentators with hundreds of thousands of subscribers should be careful with how they conduct themselves. And Kanye's recent descent into anti-Semitism should serve as a perfect example. Now that Kanye has been outed for praising Hitler, neither Candace Owens nor Lauren Chen should be in any way pretending that their original positions still hold weight, and yet both of them have gone out of their way to avoid discussing Kanye's conduct or beliefs when it comes to anti-Semitism. Going through Chen's videos, I have found that she has not once uploaded anything since her initial response to the Kanye scandal. Owens, by contrast, has actively asked people to stop asking about Kanye West, not because he praised Hitler, but because of a clothing company he associates with. If there was ever any doubt that these two commentators have little to no concern about anti-Semitism, it is gone now. Under no circumstances should their hesitation in condemning West's positions be taken as anything less than a complete moral failing to defend their fellow human beings from prejudiced thinking. At a time when anti-Semitic attacks are getting worse, condemning and fighting back against this disgusting prejudice is critical to ensuring the safety of Jewish people around the world. Through their cowardice, Candace Owens and Lauren Chen have done nothing to assist in that fight, and they should be ashamed of themselves. Though considering who they are, I sincerely doubt they know what shame is.